Guts and company are led by Morgan to Enoch Village, whose people have just been through a troll attack that resulted in Hannah being raped and taken after her husband Ted was killed, with her brother Horace dying in an attempt to save her. When Shirke reveals she is the witch sent to help them, the people voice disbelief while a Holy See priest dismisses her and the others as traveling performers and chooses not to interfere in what he considers to be God's test on the villagers' faith. On the way, Shirke expresses that she doesn't want to fight for these people. In response, Guts tells her simply to just give up if she doesn't want to. Guts tells her that she doesn't have to fight for these people she doesn't like, and how she's a hypocritical child for only seeing the evil nature of humanity fighting for no purpose when she's doing the same thing. She begins to resent Guts for that, but his brutal honesty is due to the fact that he has far more experience in the world than she does. Guts, like her, never wanted to fight for anyone, but was forced into it. He realized he liked it, but when he didn't come to appreciate it enough and left it all behind, it all crumbled before him. Because of that, he learned a lot of things and has now truly discovered what his purpose is. I think the image of Serpico's feather fits well. As a symbol across many cultures, feathers have always represented a connection to spiritual realms and to divinity. He fights for Farnese and considers the spirits of the wind alien to him for their freedom. Perhaps they're alien to him because he was never free, but at the same time, he never sought freedom. He doesn't understand how they can live in that freedom. Shirke does what she's told as a fool's errand, but Serpico does what he's told to serve the person he cares for the most. Guts served Griffith, but it took learning that Griffith viewed him as a tool to chase his own ambition. He considers those that don't follow their own choices foolish, and that's the key difference between Serpico and Shirke. There's a great deal of difference between fighting for those that you love and simply doing what you're told for the fuck of it. Eventually, the trolls begin their raid and the party regroups at the church. We see Lady Farnese laying her life down for Casca, and for the first time in her life, she is willing to protect someone else even if it means death. Shirke stands atop the church to enact her plan, with Farnese attempting to reason with the priest as he tries to stop her while Guts deals with the trolls. The priest is so far gone with his values and his beliefs that he endangers the town because of what he perceives as a sin. He's so blinded by his fear that he doesn't even care or may not even be aware of the fact that she's protecting everyone. We see these tainted, evil monsters hanging off of a cross, a holy symbol. They look like shadows of nightmare surrounding the elegant brightness. You really have to admire that Guts and the crew are doing this for this group of religious people. Despite knowing that they see them as no different from the trolls, they acknowledge that these are human lives they're dealing with. The art here is majestic. How the sky lights up like heaven, and how in the image of them protecting the church it's really beautifully framed, showing the beast's grovel at the bottom, Guts looking up as he stands between them and the big, tall, majestic building. The victory is short-lived when a larger monster that Shirke identifies as an ogre appears, and tells Guts to hold it off as she performs another spell. Guts battles the ogre until another creature that Shirke recognizes as a Kelpie appears. Serpico offers to deal with the Kelpie so Guts can focus on the ogre, the men fighting their respective monster, while Shirke managed to commune with a river spirit known as the Lady of the Depths, whose shrine the church was built on. Shirke manages to convince the spirit to help her by creating a wash that will wipe out everything outside of her barrier, with Guts and Serpico killing the monstrous opponents while the trolls are carried off by the current. However, Shirke dove too deep into the astral world to regain control of herself to cancel the spell, with Evil Era guiding Farnese a method to help guide Shirke back to her body. As Shirke safely returned to her body, Farnese and Casca accidentally fell into the water and are carried off by the current, with Shirke manipulating a log towards them to hold on to. After a few hours of searching, Guts assured her that it's not her fault, and Shirke uses her power to find the women through their life force, but though Shirke is unharmed, she regrets to tell Guts that Farnese and Casca have been captured by the trolls. I think the inclusion of these ogres and trolls both establish, of course, that this is fantasy, but a different kind of fantasy. Ogres and trolls are monsters that act on instinct, and their drive to kill and rape is merely a result of their primal rage. They correlate well with the people present in that their selfish urges drive them to the point of insanity. I love how Guts stands strong, preparing to take on a beast that's 5 times his size. He's so used to this shit that it's not even a surprise anymore. The Kelpie is probably the more interesting monster of the two. It is, without a stretch of the imagination, It's a water horse. Water popularly represents life. It can be associated with birth, fertility, and refreshment. In a Christian context, water has many correlations. Christ walked on water and transmuted it into wine. Thus, these acts can be seen as a transcendence of the earthly condition. The horse is a universal symbol of freedom without restraint because riding a horse made people feel they could free themselves from their own bindings. Also linked with riding horses, they are symbols of travel, movement, and desire. To some lesser extent, the Kelpie is an indication of man, a monster with nothing but an instinct to kill. It's like the apostles. It gained its freedom to roam the earth and seas, but what is left is nothing but a monster with the instinct to kill everything in its path. I think that it only being able to reside in the rain is fitting too. Rain indicates bad times, yet the monster gains power from it. Like the apostles, he is only ever to live his life in a constant rain. It's just like Zod. It's just like the rest of the apostles that gave up their humanity to become monsters, and arguably it's just like Guts towards the start of the series. He has the power and freedom, but is just a beast. Adding to that, these monsters correlate with Guts and Serpico, and there's a reason Guts and Serpico are pinned up against the ones they're pinned up against. Guts and Serpico are two people who have lived troubled lives, only attempting to survive the harsh world they've been thrust into. Even though their ambitions are different, they correlate in a way. Shierke losing control also holds some significance. In the same way that Guts loses control in the armor, Shierke loses control here, and that's why he's so quick to support her. It builds the idea that everyone loses control from time to time and needs a helping hand to get past that. Despite the differences between them, they are a mutual help to each other, and that's what makes this group so important. I have to also admire the little miniature character art the religious man gets. Like Farnese, he was so caught up in his religious bias that he didn't realize these people were here to help him. Once they did help him and he saw it for himself, he realized that he was wrong and put aside his religious bias to accept the fact that they came to save him. As well, Isidro starts to feel upset because he supposedly didn't do much of anything and feels completely useless. This builds into the two themes of Berserk, the theme of worldviews being shattered, or realizing that the world works differently than you thought, and of course the theme of inadequacy. Farnese's worldview is shattered and she starts to feel like she doesn't fit into the group. Guts' worldview is shattered when he learns he isn't Griffith's friend, and he starts to feel like he didn't fit into the Band of the Hawk. It isn't a main theme of Berserk, but it is an interesting pattern that I noticed, in that things really change when you discover something you believed was wrong. Guts' party is great in that each character has their use, even if they don't realize it. Even Serpico acknowledges that he isn't perfect and needs time to heal, and that's why he leaves Farnese in Guts' care. Outside Enoch Village, while Shierke tracks the trolls through their residual thoughts, as Farnese and Casca are unconscious, but safe because of their tunics. As they notice their surreal surroundings, strange creatures with human faces appear around them, and Shierke deduces that they followed the trolls into a part of the astral realm known as Cliffoth. If I mispronounced that, I'm not sorry. By then, Shierke proceeds to lead the group to the cave that is the troll's lair, and in the troll's den, Farnese manages to rouse Casca to escape from the scavengers feasting on corpses and hide until they are found. However, the women ended up in the chamber of the troll's den where they rape captured women. One of the captured women notices Farnese and pleads for her help before she curls into a fetal position as a baby troll bursts from her stomach. Farnese screams as the sight is too much for her to bear. This attracts more of the trolls, who surround them with only the Farnese's silver dagger, keeping the monsters from giving them an agonizing death. Luckily, Guts arrives in time and stays behind to cover the group as the captive women and children escape to Enoch Village. The group fight their way through the pursuers and Cliffoth's predators, only to be surrounded by trolls until a Skull Knight opens an escape path for them while riding towards Guts. The trolls kidnap and rape women repeatedly, and when they've had their sexual fill, they throw them to the monsters to be eaten alive. It should be noted that these trolls aren't just using these women to procreate. That certainly does play a big part in it, yes, but take for instance this troll fucking her down the throat. I think this just builds the point that these trolls see these women they kidnap as nothing more than just tools of sexual pleasure. Something to take care of their primal urges and nothing more. Again, these trolls correlate with the monsters of man acting just like the various men throughout the story in war. Generals that saw Casca as a potential sex slave, peasants who saw her as a gift from God. It's primal sexual rage, and these trolls are an indication of that. They're broken, flawed creatures that shouldn't exist because even their procreation kills the woman when a baby bursts out of her stomach. And that can also kind of correlate with Guts' bastard child, although I'm not really sure about that one. Let's just get back to the point, the main point. These trolls thrive off of hurting people, and that's why they feed into the idea of evil. In a sense, the trolls kind of return to the primitive tribal mentality to challenge contemporary assumptions of what civilized society really is, especially in a time of political and social unrest. The actions of these trolls exist within man, and Berserk works well to build that point. I love how Guts' sword towers above them, as if to say that despite how horrifying they've been up to this point, Guts still is the bigger monster. And I also have to admire Isidro putting his best foot forward to help in fighting. Neither he nor Farnese are useless, even though they think they are, but what I think is probably the most admirable aspect is most certainly the fact that Farnese is powered by someone else. Farnese was alone her entire life, and now is being forced to protect someone who can't protect themselves. At the same time, Guts experiences pain from his brand while seeing his Bayard's face, arranged as Slan emerges from the rippling water while using the guts of the trolls killed by Guts to manifest herself. Luckily, the Skull Knight appears in time to stop Guts and question Slan on why only she was summoned. Slan then summons a quartet of ogres and then trolls to deal with the Skull Knight, failing to realize that Guts managed to point his prosthetic arm at her stomach as he fires it, but of course Slan is aroused by the pain, and then her body reverts to troll intestines. Slan tells the shocked swordsman that she hopes they'll meet again. I'm not about to bust a nut in troll guts. I'm sorry. That is just something. I would like to point out that, like, you know, having killed these trolls, Slan's body forms from them. And the troll's den is a den of rape, lust, objectifying their victims. It's a place full of evil, and that's why Slan forms in it. She is born from the bodies of those that embody the lust and hatred that consumes her. She is literally embodied by the evil of this troll's den. In addition to that, she talks to Guts in a very sexual manner, and it comes off as if she's attempting to rape Guts. I gotta say, like I said, that's too fucking, the troll intestines is just too much for me. Like, yeah, okay, she's hot as fuck, but, like, come on, man. Skull Knight as well saves Guts' ass again, killing these ogres with ease when Guts struggled to kill just one. The act of birth is meant to be beautiful, like a pure moment, yet Berserk constantly depicts it as evil. You got Guts being born from a hung body, Casca giving birth to a monster, and the troll babies ripping open the stomachs of their mothers. And then there's, of course, Slan's obsession with a split womb, as if to say life doesn't matter and to indulge in lust. What this says about Guts' birth is that he was born from someone who relatively meant nothing in the long run. It doesn't matter who his real parents are. He was found because he was fated to be found. He managed to survive as a consequence. Even at birth, he survived because of fate. I also want to take note of the Sword of Actuation, the sword formed from the device that people use for selfish gain. It's a device formed from this selfish primal rage in the hearts of men. Like I said, this troll's den is a representation of that primal selfish rage. Yet the Skull Knight overcame this and is now controlling a device that controlled so many others. As Skull Knight believed, Slan's influence within the troll's den has caused the trolls and ogres she summoned to start mutating while budding more of their kind at a rapid rate. The Skull Knight resorts to his trump card, infusing the sword with melted remains of the Baelets he consumed to create a Baelet sword. He then cuts a portal leading to the abyss to exile the fell creatures as he and Guts escape through another portal to another layer of the astral realm to escape before emerging from the cave. The Skull Knight takes his leave once more as Sherke seems to recognize him. The party then escort the women and children of Enoch Village out of Clyfoth and back to the village with Serpico greeting Farnese while the men of Enoch greet their women and children. At this moment, Guts looks at his party and begins to realize that he has companions again. And like before, they're companions that he can trust, and that trust him. The image is framed with him looking at what's in front of him, as if he's finally starting to look ahead and move on, instead of looking at what's behind him. This moment is so fucking beautiful, and I love it. Guts is finally realizing that he has a chance to be happy again. He's finally realizing that not all hope is lost, and he deserves it so much. For the first time since the eclipse, he is putting aside his bitterness and learning to let go. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have for this one. The final part will come out eventually, I promise you. It's just that I've got 40 goddamn videos all at once, and I don't have, it's just, I have them all going on simultaneously. So, just bear with me. I know that you guys want to see more Berserk content, and I've been trying to get it out. I am so happy that the hour-long Berserk video hit, like... subscribe for more Berserk content, and I will see you in the next video.